Welcome back, folks, to the Mel Wright Show. We've got a really great guest here, and also I've got my co-host, Robert. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the audience, Robert?
Sure, since I'm not wearing my fancy baseball cap today. My name is Robert Newman. I'm the founder of Inbound Real Estate Marketing. And if you want to learn more about me or my company, you can hit my website, which is inboundrem.com.
And we've got Josh from UpMyInfluence.com. Would you like to introduce yourself quickly to the audience and viewers, Josh?
Yeah, so I've been in the media over 2,000 times myself in support of my other company, Savings Angel, and I actually work as a consumer expert, a consumer advocate, consumer reporter, and I help consumers save money on everything. And so I've been doing that for about 11 years. And as a result, Savings Angel as a company has done quite well. We've done over $6 million in revenue, and I've spent less than $500 in advertising. Everything I do is just serving audiences, giving value, trying to do good in the world. And so with our success with that, we ended up, I got kind of invited over and over again to do consulting for other companies that wanted that similar media success. And so I just started doing some pro bono work, and that turned into paid consulting. Then that turned into starting an agency. And now we have this amazing platform where we help individual business owners, small, medium-sized business owners become media celebrities so that they can increase their authority, their influence, and ultimately their revenue, make a lot more money.
That's great, Josh. In our pre-show chat, I told Josh that our audience are mostly, real estate agents struggling in the field, trying to build their great businesses. And I thought Josh would be a great guest for the show because one key word that he emphasizes himself is influence. And I think being seen as a major expert about property and seen as an influencer in your community is really important to build a really great real estate business. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, it's critical. So, we do business today, and it's become even more so, right? We have this amazing this amazing thing is social media. We've got, the internet, and, back in the day, like 5-10 years ago, I think it could be very easy that you could just advertise. And people would say, I don't know who this is, but I see them everywhere. So I'm just going to do business with them. In the old days, I think that worked. Today, just consumers expect a little bit more. And what I mean by a little bit more is they say, well, wait a minute. Everybody's advertising. The average consumer is exposed to over 10,000 brand messages a day now because of this hyper, this hyper consumer world. And so as a result, we just don't make emotional connections with any of that. And so it's imperative today, particularly if you look at what your competition is doing, is they are doing things, if they're making money, they're doing things to connect with their potential audience. And so if you're using social media, you're doing live streaming, you're doing podcasting, you're doing YouTube videos, you're on the right track. But you need to, if I'm speaking to, individual real estate professionals, you should be doing great work to serve audiences on as many stages and platforms as you possibly can. Some of those might be your own social media accounts, but I really love working with other people and serving other audiences. Look at where your audiences are already pre-congregated and find ways to bring value to them. You're not going and selling, but you're serving. And when you serve, people say, well, I kind of like that Josh guy. I got a lot of value out of that. I'd like to find out what else he does. And so they do a Google search, or you give your website address at the end of the presentation. And, not everybody, but those who are looking will do business with you.
I think that's so important. And it must really resonate with you as well, Robert, because it in a way, that's been a key part of building your own business, offering that real value to your audience, Robert.
Yeah, 80 to 90% of the conversions that I get, which come from YouTube. So the live media element, my personal experience, so I'm an SEO guy, Josh, and nice. I drive a lot of traffic through my content on my website. And the content drives the traffic, and that's the text-based content. That's so text messaging in the most literal sense. But when I'm getting people calling me and contacting me, it's universally almost. I may even be under exaggerating the number, where it's 8 or 9 people out of 10 are talking to me about a video that I've done. And my message is, I review real estate technology platforms. That's the number one driver of inquiries and people that contact me. And it's strictly, actually, it's almost always expertise-based questions, which is how that's how I'm interpreting what you're saying. It's like they don't call me to order services. That's not what they're doing. They're calling me to ask questions and basically ring my bell in terms of my expertise.
Yeah.
So the way that I'm interpreting what you're saying is, if you're actually, no, I don't want to interpret it. I want to ask you a question. So let's put yourself in the shoes of being you're in Orlando. I think we mentioned earlier. Is that right? So let's just say that you wanted to be a real estate agent in Orlando, and you give me an example of maybe something that you personally like. What kind of media would you do, and what maybe would you talk about if you were trying to get into the real estate game?
Yeah. Well, listen, at the very beginning, I can tell you exactly what I would do today. And I would be a servant in Facebook groups. That's a really, really good way at the very, very, very beginning, because it doesn't require a lot of, it certainly doesn't require any investment. And it's pretty much a solid thing if you can play the game right. So here's what I would do if I were an independent real estate professional, is that I would optimize my personal Facebook profile. And there's a lot to that, but it's really critical. And I think Facebook would probably be your best platform to start with. And then I think that, we can move on and start talking about LinkedIn and Twitter, which are really, really critical, particularly if you're working with influencers. But at the very, very beginning, so find your Facebook groups that have to do with, for example, in East Orlando, there's an East Orlando group, there's an Avalon Park group, there's a Stony Brook group, there's a Waterford group. I'm like naming all of these neighborhoods, right, in my part of town. And I would make sure I'm a member of them. Now, you are not going to get in there and start spamming. That would be the worst thing. Like, that would turn people off. They would hate it. Like, you would get banned. Like, you don't do that. But you go and you become known as the person who just really understands the housing market, or, you're just going in there and you're answering questions and you're not giving calls to action. But what'll happen is, if you become an indispensable resource in these groups, then what will happen is that people will hover over your name. They'll look at your profile. In your profile, you've got calls to action. You've got free downloads. I mean, your call to action should not call me for a free consultation. That's everybody. Instead, what you should do is you should put together a report that talks about, I've interviewed, 100 parents about the best elementary schools in East Orlando. And here's what I've found. Would you like this report? And if I were a parent and I had kids in elementary school, I would so want to get my hands on that report. So you give them something. And so you ask for their email address and phone number in exchange. They download the thing, and then you reach out to them and you're like, hey, are you looking to move? Are you looking for a move? Are you looking to sell? Are you looking to buy? I know this area really well. I don't have to be your real estate professional, your real estate agent, but count on me as a resource. I'm someone that really knows this area very, very well, and I'd love to answer any questions I possibly can, help you, if you're maybe thinking about next year or whatever, and you start to build up this, this database of people that like you, because you're a giving person.
Sure.
So again, I would say, if I were talking like early phase one, like if I'm just like, I'm a real estate agent, now what do I do? Like that's what I would do today.
That's brilliant. I love your specificity. Thank you so much. I think that's a great way to go. And you could follow I would think a slightly similar strategy when you kind of felt like you had the content wired in, you could repurpose the content for LinkedIn groups, which is more for professionals, but you could still probably spend the same kind of content on LinkedIn, the same way that you did with Facebook.
Yeah, for sure.
What also interests you, I thought it was a fantastic answer, Josh. You also mentioned Twitter, and when it comes to a lot of agents, they dismiss Twitter because it doesn't generate any leads. So where do you see Twitter in this landscape of social media and influence building? Because I was intrigued that you mentioned it.
Yeah. So Twitter is really, really important in terms of establishing your authority and your social proof, particularly if you ever want to do any public speaking, if you ever want to work with the media, if you ever want to do partnerships with somebody else. So authority comes from two places. And I'll talk about, kind of causation, correlation. People think, oh, okay, well, that real estate professional makes a lot of money, so they've got a lot of authority. Not necessarily. Authority really comes from two areas. It comes from social proof, and it comes from your associations. So if you have a big social media following, and if you've got respect in that regards, in terms of like numbers of people go to you and they've bought your book. Numbers of people are doing something. They're on your email list. They're following you on social media, whatever it is. That's social proof. People, your future clients will look at that and say, well, wait a minute. Everybody else is buying homes from Jonathan. I don't want to miss out. Like, obviously there's something that he does that everybody else understands that I don't yet understand. So that's social proof. Number two would be your association. So I see that Jonathan hangs around with Robert. Well, Robert is like, he's our city councilman, or he's, Robert is the president of the HOA, or Robert is he's an important person in our local market, and everybody knows his name. He's a local celebrity or something like that, or just someone, professionally within the industry that's well respected. So you work your way up to associating with those people. So that might be also media people. So if you're on a local TV station, that's major positive association. In my world, I've spoken at some Tony Robbins events. So when people learn that I have an association with Tony Robbins' organization, that instantly just boosted my credibility. In fact, someone who's listening to this right now had an opinion of me, and they said, well, this guy's probably like a 4 out of 10, in terms of like how important he is or whatever. But now I mentioned, I speak with Tony Robbins. It's like, oh, okay. Well, and then in their mind, I just went from a 4 to like maybe like a 6 or something like that. So it's really important that people figure out what your association is. So that's kind of like why, you go to a lot of websites and they say as seen on, and then they put, all their places, Fox News or, wherever, Huffington Post, New York Times, like you see that a lot. So we do that because we want people to know, hey, we've gotten past some gatekeepers who believe that we're someone that you should pay attention to and someone you should listen to.
So can you kind of go back to the Twitter bit? Obviously.
Yeah. So Twitter is really important. If you ever want to work with the media, Twitter is the platform to do that. So if you want to go on your local news and you've only got 30 followers on Twitter, that's going to communicate something. Now, if you have 3,000 or 30,000 followers on Twitter, that communicates something entirely different. And so Twitter is the platform where you make those first introductions to pretty much anyone you want to partner with or work with. Facebook is a little bit more of a personal platform. Twitter is one where it's more kind of professional, and certainly anyone working in the media, every influencer I know, I would say, well, not every, but 90+% of influencers I know actively use Twitter. And so when they see that this is a platform that you take very seriously, it gets you into front doors, and it gets you directly to the people that you want to work with. So I've got I think about 57,000 followers on Twitter myself. I could pretty much reach out to anyone, and they're going to be like, "Oh, well, who's this Josh Elledge guy?" And then and then because I've got that social proof. Now, again, if you're at the beginning, it's not very difficult to build up an audience in Twitter. All you have to do is just share stuff on a regular basis, and you would use, you can schedule all this stuff. You can repeat tweets, as long as it's not within 24 hours, and you could fill up your queue with content. And then again, optimize your profile. I can't stress this enough, how important it is that we perfectly optimize our Facebook, Twitter, our LinkedIn is, I can't tell you, listen, you cannot overinvest in your LinkedIn profile in 2018 and beyond. It's that critical if you want to get work done, because that's a platform where people go to research who you are and what you do.
I think that's fantastic.
But Twitter's critical. It really, really is. You don't have to spend your time there, but you need to get the ball rolling there. It's really important.
I think that's fantastic. We're going to go for our break, folks. We'll be back. We're going to be discussing how to become an influencer in your local market with Josh. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back, folks. We've had a fascinating conversation about influence. And I say that jokingly, but actually I think it's one of the areas that a lot of agents, real estate professionals underestimate, and it's one of the leading things which will determine their success, how much they're seen as an influencer and a person that really produces results, isn't
yes.
it?
Let me just jump in for 2 seconds on that. I just want to add something, Jonathan. I've had the good fortune to work with, I'd say in Southern California, maybe 80% of the top 2% of the real estate professionals. And I can't really say, and I'm talking about like volume revenue that they've produced. The most of the revenue here is done in the luxury market, and that would be the same in Florida. The biggest real estate team, or one of them in that area, is the Jills, and they focus on luxury as well. So you've got that particular brand of real estate professional considers the influencer element. It's not just a piece of dialogue. It's critical. It's part of their business plan. Every single one is part of their mission, which means that this topic, like touching on this for agents that may not be there yet or are wondering how they get there, I feel like this is like okay, what if you wanted to do a baby step? Anyway, so I just wanted to add that in. If you're going into luxury, if it's ever part of your mission, if you want to touch the top of your real estate market, that being an influencer is pretty much absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask you, you mentioned your profile, getting your profile right, connected with Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Can you give some insights on what you think is a right profile on these platforms? How would you approach it?
Yeah. So, you can certainly just look me up and you can take a look at mine. Mine tend to perform quite well. I'm just at Josh Elledge. You can find me on my LinkedIn, performs exceptionally well, and just copy what I do. That would be a good start. But one thing I'd say, the most important thing at the very beginning is you have to invest in great photography. So you have to have a great photo, a great headshot, professionally done. Just spend the money, because you're going to use that for years to come. It is a very, very wise $200-300 investment, probably cheaper if you got a friend or, that knows what they're doing. They have a good DSLR camera. And then, you want to optimize your bio and everything that you write, your cover image, that sort of thing. Everything should be written to the audience, and you talk about what is in it for them and how you can make their life better. And then I would also use your social media profile to share indicators of authority. What makes you important? Why are you someone that they should pay attention to? So, some of this is like, look, if you've got any money to invest, this would be money well spent in terms of optimizing, investing your authority for future returns. Because someone who's perceived to be very successful in their business just has a higher conversion rate in everything they do. If you're doing Facebook ads and you're just getting started and you're kind of brand new in the market, you're going to pay a lot of money for lead gen. If you're already an established, recognized name and you've got a lot of clout and a lot of authority behind you, what you do, you're not going to have to pay as much. Like you'll pay a third of what a new agent would have to pay. So, that's why I say, even if you're working, let's say you're working with a brokerage and everything is all about like branding if everything is all about branding the brokerage, I think that's a mistake. Granted, there are some rules, but I think it's so critical. I'm sure you talk about this a lot. You have to promote your own personal brand. You might change brokerages. You might move on. You might go independent. I don't know. But I talk about this like with network marketers all the time. Like if you're just known as, the brand X lotion guy, that's dangerous because, you could move on from that company. But if you're not known as a skincare anti-aging guy, then what do you have? So in today's YouTube world, the more you can, YouTube and podcasting world, the more value you can give and the more education you can give, people will follow you and they will become raving fans and they'll share your stuff with other people. And that's really the position you want to put yourself in. Now, again, I really want to make sure we talk about the media. So I hope we could kind of transition and talk about that, because that's where we really, what I talked about previously, that's just getting up to the point where you can get your bills paid. Now let's talk about really growing your practice and getting into those upper tiers.
Yeah, right. Off we go. Go on, give us some
I wanted your
insight.
permission. So obviously that is going to come from, because anybody can get on social media. So that's going to get you up to a certain point. And maybe that's, getting close to six figures in personal revenue. But what I want to talk about is, how can we get to $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in revenue and beyond? And I'm talking about personal take home, like your profits, right? And so that's where I really want to get an agent. And so that's going to come when you are seen as a subject matter expert or a thought leader for your market, for your area, and people come to you. And also really important is that you share these media wins or these indicators of authority. So if you go to my website, you're going to see a lot of media logos. If you go to savingsangel.com, I've been in the media over 2,000 times, and I'm not going to be bashful about sharing that with you, because new people coming in, I want them to make sure that they know who they're talking with. I'm not just some fly-by-night guy who just threw up a website one day. And there's in real estate, that there's a ton of fly-by-night people. And so it's really important that we do the work as professionals to say, look, we are not that. I invest in my branding, and this is really critical too. Your branding, you will get, and I'm sure Robert's got some great ideas on this one. You will attract the caliber and level of client in correlation with the level and caliber of your branding. So if your website and all of that looks really, really good, you're going to attract really great clients. If you've got if your social media and your website it looks amateur hour, I'm sorry, but that's what you're going to attract as far as clients. The clients with a lot of money that are into luxury, they're not going to work with just anybody. And Robert, you're the expert on that. But I can't stress how important it is to find ways to make those investments, smart investments in your branding, so that it's like investing in putting on more muscle mass. So if you've got strong, inner core muscles, like life is easier for you. You just don't gain fat as easily. So you've got a gift that goes with you everywhere you go. If you've got strong branding, strong authority, it's a gift that goes with you. Just like your marketing and advertising is a walk in the park compared to somebody who doesn't have that.
Yeah. And just to tag on to your comment, so In the real estate business, because I haven't touched on this in a bit in any of our podcasts, so I am going to touch on it now. There's two ways you can go. You can have the really beautiful branding site, and that is a way to go. And you're right. Some clients look at that. The second way you can go is how much information does it provide? You don't necessarily have to have something that looks like $1 million, as long as the information that you have on it truly sets you apart from everybody else. Like, you can have on a WordPress site that's good. I mean, it can't be terrible, but it doesn't have to be like a site that you spent 25 grand on to have somebody design. It can be a vlog, and as long as it looks clean and the information is organized, but really good, you can actually, expertise is also unfortunately very rare inside. I'd try to sell $5 or $10 million homes, and their expertise is not in line with the value of the product that there's a high degree of expertise, because you're dealing with entrepreneurs and CEOs and CMOs. And you know what? They're looking at, okay, I'm going to pay you in excess of a few $100,000, and that's my money. That's not your money. That's my money.
Yep.
That provide me expertise. Sorry, go ahead, John.
Yeah, you great stuff. Unfortunately, you were breaking up a little bit, Robert, but there we go.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's no problem. Another thing I want to touch, Josh, is, you're well known in the Florida area. You appear on television. How does an agent, we've touched upon it, but if they do want to get on to local radio, the established media, what are these outlooks looking for from a so-called expert about real estate? Got any insights about that? Yeah.
So whenever you, so a lot of people like the idea of being on TV, and they'd love to talk about their brand. They'd love to talk about their work. But that's not the job of a journalist. That's not the job of a broadcaster or producer. Their job is to entertain, inform, inspire, enlighten their audience. Like, give them stuff that audience is going to be glued to their, glued to their TVs or chair or whatever, watching. And so it's really important that you come up with fun, topical, subjects that you pitch. So, for example, like if I were a real estate professional, I would say, I would maybe, I don't know if it wouldn't play for TV, but for digital stuff, I would maybe do an article. Like, if you wanted to do something that had the potential to go viral, you might do something like, the 10 weirdest things I have ever seen in a backyard or bedroom when touring houses, or something like that. Like, you just come up with like these lists. Certainly with local broadcast news, I would probably talk about big development news. Like, that's what I would pitch on. So when something breaks, like let's say an employer just announces that they're adding 2,000 jobs to the local economy, boom, go immediately. Like, as soon as you see that break, reach out to your local broadcast and say, look, I want to talk about the economic impact of this and what that's going to mean to the housing market. And then you pitch yourself as a subject matter expert, and you want to be very helpful. You definitely don't want to sell at all, especially, for that first 3 to 5 segments that you do. You have to be really, really careful, because if they see, the only reason they're going on air is because they just want to promote their brand, and it's like, you have to be very, very protective against doing that. And you might say, well, wait a minute, what value do I get? The value you get is that you were just on TV, and now you take that video and you embed it on your site and in your social media, and everybody sees it. And all of a sudden, like, whoa, Jonathan is like the go-to, real estate professional. He's like getting invited on TV. And it's not like you're getting invited. You're inviting yourself. You're just offering, you gotta do a pitch where the reaction from the journalist, the producer, the broadcaster is something where it's like, you don't want the reaction where it's like, oh, well, okay, I guess we could do a story on that. I mean, we weren't really planning on that. The reaction you want is, oh my gosh, yeah, we need somebody. Like we're going to be talking about that anyway. Thank you so much. So that's the kind of stuff that I would do. I think that's going to be much easier. I was kind of talking about some, clever kind of, viral potential thing that would go better for social media. Like you could pitch that to larger, maybe digital influencers, that earlier one, when you come up kind of with that clickbaity kind of topic. But for TV, it's all about local, topical, like what's going on, what's in the news, and bam, you are Johnny on the spot and you're helping. Now, you want to make sure that you work on a relationship with these journalists first, which is why we use Twitter. So I've got a whole Twitter course I'd be happy to give to those that are watching this, and it'll explain exactly what my process is for step-by-step, like basically how to make friends with journalists is what the course goes through, and then how to then take that and then get tons of media. But you can actually, if you go to upmyinfluence.com/free, then for 10 days, you'll get access to my full Twitter course. And that's that's a $400 value. So
that's fantastic, Josh. We're going to end the podcast part of the show, folks. Josh has been gracious, because he's a busy guy, to stay with us for another 10, 12 minutes, where we're going to be discussing some more about this fascinating subject. But we're going to round up the podcast part of the show. So Josh, how can people get hold of you and learn more about you and your services, Josh?
I do a pro bono webinar probably about every other week. If you go to upmyinfluence.com and then you click on webinar, you can see when my next one is scheduled. I do those live. I answer a lot of questions. And if you're on and you let me know, look, I'm a real estate professional. I'm going to tailor and I'm going to answer your questions specific to who you are and what you do and what your goals are. I normally charge like $800 an hour. So this is a great way for me to give you free help. And I'll explain, all the foundations to growing your authority, growing your business, making a lot more revenue. And of course, I'll, share with you as well some different ways that we could potentially work together as well, if that, fits within your business.
And we'll make sure that all these links are on the Mailrite website, with the full interview, the video interview of this great discussion, and there'll be a full set of show notes and a transcription of the interview. So I'll make sure that's all there, folks, for you. Robert, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to, Robert?
They can find me at inboundrem.com, and they can just go to any part of my website and probably learn a lot about me. And just wanted to trail on here. Josh is one of my favorite type of content marketers. I'm on his website right now, and I'm looking at the content that he's offering for free to our audience members, especially those that really listen to what I say. I strongly recommend that they go look at his Twitter marketing series of videos. There appears to be 4. Looks like he's giving away 30 or 40 minutes of his time. I can tell by everything that we've experienced today that he is definitely somebody that knows what he's talking about, and probably can pick up a lot of value off just his free content on the site. I just want to throw that in there.
Oh, that's great. And if you want to get hold of me, folks, it's really easy. Go to the Mailrite website. We've got over 100 of these interviews. It's really a university course 101 about how to set yourself up to become a successful real estate agent in your local community. I think it's a great resource. Plus, you'll be able to learn more about Mailrite and our SaaS platform, which is designed to help you with some of the things we've discussed with Josh. We'll be back next week with an expert or a subject which we'll be discussing that I'm absolutely sure will help you get the success that you're looking for yourself and for your family. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye. Well, Josh, on to the bonus content. I think the main thing that really a lot of agents looking for the right word here, Josh. It seems so large. There seems to be so much to do, so many balls to juggle to try and get some results. Can you help with that? Maybe give a quick roadmap of if you were in that agent's shoes and they were listening to you and they've tried some of your free great material and then considered signing up for your more detailed courses and plans, how they should approach this so they don't get kind of, I'm not going to do anything, it's just too much, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, so I would say, as we discussed in the interview, I would say if you're baby, brand new, like, look, get some good high quality headshots and get those on all your social media. And then what I want you to do is maybe do some Google searching. You can go to our website. We have a long form article all about optimizing your LinkedIn and how to use LinkedIn to generate a lot of business. We have a lot of free content on Twitter as well. And then Facebook, probably just, again, you could search my name and you could look at my personal Facebook and just use that as inspiration for maybe how to optimize your personal Facebook profile. These are the most critical first steps. And then, in terms of like a website, there's so many bad websites out there. I'm sure Robert has some good info on this one. But honestly, like a simple one-page website that's professionally done and leads toward your social media so people can engage with you. You offer a lead magnet, which is, you put together something that's really valuable for your audience, and you give those away for free, maybe alongside some free content where they don't have to opt in. It's really effective. It really, really works.
I think that's great advice. I just want to quickly ask about LinkedIn as well, because I see a lot of people trying to touch base with me through LinkedIn, and they seem to be doing it in a rather very mechanical, poor way.
Yeah.
Have you got any insights about that?
Well, you have to do a lot of experimenting in terms of like, I think what you're talking about is, so you can use Sales Navigator, for example, in LinkedIn, which we do. I mean, I would say right now, that's about 80% of our business comes through LinkedIn. Your messages have to be they have to be on point. Like you gotta really work that stuff out. Like if you're talking about lead gen through like LinkedIn messaging, because there's a lot of spam there. And so you really have to come across as authentic, real, organic, natural. And if it comes across like you're just spamming, spraying and praying, it's not going to work. People loathe that stuff. And so you just have to really work on your messaging and you have to test it. You get feedback from people. And certainly, if you're not hitting certain numbers in terms of people engaging with you, then your messaging sucks. So you gotta work on that. But that said, look, in terms of like marketing opportunities right now, if you're in the B2B world, LinkedIn's amazing.
Right. I just want to touch on another area. How to word this correctly. I think giving to the community really can also, not in a cliche way, but with, originality in your heart, really can place you above the herd in a way. And what I mean is finding a non-profit organization in your community which really resonates, and really committing yourself to that non-profit and building relationships through that. What's your thoughts about that, Josh?
Yeah, I like that, and I'll give you a couple of ways that I would do that. So, a couple of reasons why I like that. Number one is the networking. So it's you're going to invest some time in a worthy cause, and I think that we should all find things that we're paying it forward on, that we're giving back, that sort of thing. Even before we have a lot of resources, like we should all find ways to give back or pay it forward. So you're going to be networking with other like-minded people, which is really great. If you're just sitting at home, and you're not circulating, that's bad. Like at the beginning, if you're just trying to get the ball rolling, like you have to just be out constantly circulating. Don't be that weird person that's always just like you go into robo pitch mode when you meet people, because that's awkward and uncomfortable. But like genuinely seek to build relationships, and then try to find ways to provide value. So I'm a real estate professional, and I specialize in ... So anytime you need help, like I don't care if you're buying a house or whatever, but if I can ever do some research, I have access to some really good intel. So like if you want to know like insider information on, neighborhood, whatever, like call me, message me, like no problem. And I'm happy to get you, whatever you think you got to come up with something that you can give to people that they need, regardless of whether or not they're in the market. Because now you stay top of mind, and because everybody, like on Facebook, like I see this frequently is, who knows, especially like, in some of these Facebook groups, like who's the best agent for selling in 90 days? You just you see stuff like that all the time. And so if you're top of mind with these people, because you've worked and invested in this friendship and this relationship, well, they're going to mention your name, and that's the kind of stuff you want. Now, the other reason I like network, or the kind of working with the nonprofits, is that it's really easy to do media if you're associated with this nonprofit. So nonprofits and kind of good for you charities, and it's a lot easier to get in the media. So, and by the way, if you get in your local NBC affiliate as part of a story about this nonprofit that you're involved in, and you're on camera and they interview you, can you use that logo on your website for your real estate profession? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's fair game, fair use. Absolutely. You can say that I have been seen on NBC6 or whatever it is in your local market.
Yeah, thank you for that. Got a question, Robert?
No, just I agree. I agree so much. I have nothing to add.
Yeah, but I really, really like that. So build a brand of being a subject matter expert, and you'll find that it's like when people respect who you are, and they see that you've got authority. I'm telling you right now, like life is easy. It's so much easier when you wake up in the morning and you get to a position where you, instead of saying, who am I going to sell to today? Like that's a tough way to do business. And I've been there. I know what that's like. But if I can convince you to kind of shift your mindset a little bit, and instead of saying that, say, who can I serve today? And that's your mindset moving through the day. You do that for 90, 120 days, maybe 6 months, you're going to get to a point where you no longer have to worry about selling per se or lead gen, because you're just so well known and you're so well connected, and you've planted so many seeds that business just comes to you. I'm sure we all know these real estate professionals. Yeah, they do advertising and marketing, but their inbound leads are they're amazing. That's where I want to get the person who's listening to this conversation. That's where you deserve to be, because it's fun.
Yeah, just to wrap up, is that I'm a great believer in online marketing and technology, but also I'm a great believer in face-to-face relationship building opportunities. And I feel that you've got to, if you want the most success, folks, in your real estate business, combining real relationships in your community and getting those referrals with effective online marketing, you will have a engine of lead production that will be unstoppable. Well, Josh, I've just thank you so much for coming on the show. Josh has been so gracious with his insights and knowledge. Go to his website, upmyinfluence.com. Like I say, he's got some amazing resources. We'll make sure that all these are linked up in the show notes. And we'll be back next week, folks. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Goodbye.